Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Exploring the Lord of the Rings. This is session number 355, and tonight we will approach the very threshold. Do bridges have thresholds? I don't think they do, but if it did, if the Bridge of Khazad-dûm had a threshold, we would be on it tonight, because we are running towards they do a brink, sort of. Though I suppose if a bridge has a brink, it might be doing it wrong. Well, I guess it. Anyway, whatever. We're coming right to the edge of the bridge is what we're doing. But yeah, there's a certain amount of running. And I know, Lupita, it seems weird for us to talk about running, right? We'll discuss the running very slowly and meticulously, of course. But I think more or less that is what we are approaching. In fact, I think that today's slide is the first like the last passage before they actually arrive at the bridge. So we are getting there. It's true, Jackie. We are not natural sprinters. Very, very true. But yes, we're getting there. The fourth this is the fifth to last slide. The Gandalf's confrontation, his speech on the bridge will be the fifth slide, with tonight's being number 1. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Yes, a bridge's threshold is how much weight it can take before it collapses. I agree. That's not at all what we're talking about. Though I suppose it will be what we're talking about. Later, because Gandalf, presumably had to do that calculation, right? Anyway, first, before we begin, 2 announcements tonight. One small announcement, just a quick reminder that this weekend is Ranger Moot. I'm going to be heading out to Cincinnati this weekend. I'm getting on a plane in 2 days, day after tomorrow, to fly out to Cincinnati to join folks for Ranger Moot. It's going to be really, really fun. This is our 3-day outdoor moot. I think it's going to be cooler than it was last time. last year's Ranger Moot was in a drought and heat wave in August, and now I think it should be substantially cooler this year. But this is our outdoor moot. We're going to be doing outdoor activities. We're going to be doing some reenactments. I have this wild idea to do a reenactment of the Battle of 5 Armies, which we'll do at the Boy Scout camp. We'll do that at Ranger Moot. So that's going to be fun. And also potentially others. We'll see what we do. It is a little bit ambitious, but I think we'll have enough people to include 5 armies. So Maureen, I don't know. We don't have a legal form drawn up. We'd need a pretty strong waiver to get somebody to be Bilbo. I mean, with a concussion hazard and everything. So we'd have to be careful about that. Yeah. Anyway. We're going to talk about the Battle of 5 Armies in our reenactment this year at Ranger Moot. I love doing outdoor reenactments at Ranger Moot. But in any case, so that is happening this weekend. And if you can't join us in Cincinnati, you can still join us remotely. There are, of course, because it's an outdoor moot, not absolutely everything that we do is going to be able to be broadcast, is going to be able to be recorded and broadcast live. We can't, there are going to be limitations, for the mobility of our technology and such. But we will be doing a large number of indoor activities as well, and those we will be broadcasting as usual. Yeah. So anyway, So that is the plan. Looking forward to Ranger Moot this weekend. The second announcement, of course, is that it is still our fall fundraising campaign for 2025, raising money for the annual fund for Signum University. And I want, as always, to thank everybody who has made donations. Thanks to those people who have made donations over the course of this past week. And thanks to so many of you who already have regular monthly donations in place and everything. And I would encourage you, if you have not made a donation yet, if you've never donated to us, if you have donated to us before in previous years, this would be a great time to donate again. If you have never donated to support Signum before, I encourage you to consider beginning to support Signum University. Because our purpose is to share joy with people and to create a place where people can come and learn and escape and find joy. And find community there as well. And that's been something, both of those things have been so important over the course of the 13 years that Signum University has been around. And we are really, really grateful we're really, really grateful for everyone who has made this possible. We rely very much on your donations in order to keep programs like this going and free for everybody, and also to enable all of our classes, our space classes, our graduate classes, our content through the collaboratory and store, our events, everything, just to enable all of that to be as affordable as we continue to make it and to strive to make it. Anyway, thank you all. You can make a donation to signumuniversity.org/donate. Donations are tax deductible in America. And you can, if you have any questions about making donations, you can email us at donate@signumu.org. If you are have already currently a monthly donation in place, and you would like to increase that, I've had several people contact us about that. Send an email again, donate@signumu.org, and we can take care of that. Well, the one last thing related to this that I want to do. So last week we did a giveaway at the end of class. I want to do things differently this time. I was happy to do that, and we'll do that again. My plan is to do that again next week, to do another giveaway at the end of our book discussion before we start our field trip, because I love to. It's fun to do that and to thank you guys who show up in real time, who are able to. I know not everybody can, but for those of you who are able to show up in real time, it always makes it really wonderful for me to have the group of you here. But I know that there are very many people, in fact, the majority of people who listen to Exploring the Lord of the Rings, who are not able to make it live for various quite good reasons, such as it might be 3 o'clock in the morning where you are. So here's what I want to do this week. Instead of doing a giveaway, live here during the session, we're gonna open an asynchronous giveaway, and we'll close it next week and do a drawing at the beginning of class next time. So what you should do, send an email to donate@signumu.org, mention Exploring the Lord of the Rings in the subject of your email, and just say that you want to enter the drawing. What we're going to give away is we're going to give away a 1-year subscription to the Signum Collaboratory. So through the Collaboratory, you will have access to all of the premium content that Signum has made. You'll have open access to everything, all of Signum University's content for an entire year. That's what we're going to give away this week in our asynchronous giveaway. So if you would like, and if you are here live, you can enter also. That's perfectly okay. So you guys can get a head start right now, sending an email to donate@signumu.org. Just give us your name and your we'll have your email, of course, and you should mention that it's for the collaboratory giveaway, and there we go. That's what we're gonna do. So I hope that you will enter that. All right. because like I said, I do like to involve the asynchronous folks in giveaways if I can. All right. Well, now that Kung Tater is back inside, looking forward to seeing you again, Kung Tater, in a couple days. Yes, now that you're back inside and have your whiskey to warm up your toes, let's get to the text. "If we had come by the main road down from the upper halls, we should have been trapped here," said Gandalf. "Let us hope that the fire now lies between us and pursuit. Come, there is no time to lose." Even as he spoke, they heard again the pursuing drumbeat. Doom, doom, doom. Away beyond the shadows at the western end of the hall, there came cries and horn calls. Doom, doom. The pillars seemed to tremble and the flames to quiver. "Now for the last race," said Gandalf. "If the sun is shining outside, we may still escape. After me." He turned left and sped across the smooth floor of the hall. The distance was greater than it had looked. As they ran, they heard the beat and echo of many hurrying feet behind. A shrill yell went up. They had been seen. There was a ring and a clash of steel. An arrow whistled over Frodo's head. Boromir laughed. "They did not expect this," he said. "The fire has cut them off. We are on the wrong side." "Look ahead," called Gandalf. "The bridge is near. It is dangerous and narrow." Okay. Bunch of things to talk about. So, first, I was noticing the feet again. Drbata Luke. First, let's kind of pick up where we ended last time. And the very last thing we were talking about last time was getting a sense of the space here. And you guys helped me picture it finally, accurately, I think. I'd always been very fuzzy in how I pictured this. But I think now that we're understanding it clearly, the passageway came in and they turned left. And when they turned left, they were facing south into the hall. So you've got a big hall going east and west. The second hall is going east and west. And they come in at almost the eastern end of it. And so the description of the columns, right, the pillars stalking down the hall, you remember from last time. And then the fissure with the fierce flames, right? All of that was looking off to their right when they came in. That's like the site that arrests their view. And what's more, that's where the devilry is. Remember, Gandalf comes back and says there's some devilry here? It's the fissure and the fire that seems to be the devilry in question. But they are... So they're first looking to the right. So they're looking west. They're looking away from the bridge. And notice that the focus... So they're almost at the eastern end, and they're turning and running east. But although it looks like they're almost at the eastern end of the hall, apparently they're still quite a ways. Right? That's why it says the distance was greater than it looked. And I believe the suggestion here, the second hall is so huge that the distance they can see looking back to the west is enormous. And so, looking briefly, apparently, because their attention has been focused to the west down the hall, what was left on the eastern side looks very, very short compared to the rest of it. And yet the whole thing is so huge that, in fact, the distance was greater than it looked, and they're running quite a bit. So they come out through the door, they turn left, right? It says he turned left. They turn left and run towards the east. But the whole attention of the passage is still westward, is still back into the hall. I alluded to them looking back over their shoulders. this whole passage is still looking back over their shoulders. Notice we haven't gotten a bit of description of what is to the east, other than they're almost at the end of the hall. But because all of the attention, all of the focus, both of sight and of hearing, are still focused back at what is now behind them. Now they are running. They're not just peeking out the door anymore and looking to their right, westward, down across the fissure and down the hall. Now they are they're running to the east. And yet the description, we don't get any description of what's in front of them at all. He turned left, Gandalf, he turned left and sped across the smooth floor of the hall. The distance was greater than it had looked as they ran. So they're running behind Gandalf. Do we get any description of what's in front of them? No. As they ran, they heard the beat and echo of many hurrying feet behind. Right? They're not even seeing, they're seeing the floor in front of them, which is smooth, by the way, and they are hearing the sounds behind them. The beat and echo of many hurrying feet. A shrill yell. And notice once again, as Luke, as you were pointing to, we get once again this like indirection where like noises are just happening again. Noises happening that are like divorced from any actual people doing them. Because once more, they can't see, they can just hear. Because their backs are to it. They're running in the opposite direction. But all of their focus, all their attention. They can hear hurrying feet again. They can't see the things with the feet, but they can hear the feet. It's just like outside the door of the Chamber of Mizarble, except for a different reason now. Because now they've got their back to them and are running away. And also notice, too, a shrill yell went up. Remember, that's exactly like the way those sounds were kind of described in this depersonalized way in the Chamber of Mizarble, right? We're not told who yells, right? The simple, direct way to say this would be an orc yelled shrilly or something, right? But we don't get any reference to the orc. I was just guessing that it's an orc that yelled. We're not told what or who yelled, right? Just that a yell happened. They had been seen, passive voice. They'd been seen by someone or something. There was a ring and clash of steel. Again, another noise happens. And then finally, the one thing they can see, an arrow whistled over Frodo's head. So one thing is that this reminds us very clearly whose perspective this is being told from. The reference to Frodo's head in particular. Presumably there's more than one arrow. But the one that gets mentioned is the one that whistled over Frodo's head, because he could see that one, right? Yeah, Jackrabbit, I do love my favorite sentence on this whole slide is the one that you were just talking about. As they ran, they heard the beat and echo of many hurrying feet behind. I love the beat and echo. That is such a delightful and poetical pairing. As they ran, they heard the beat and echo of many hurrying feet behind. And yeah, Jackrabbit was talking about the rhyme of beat and feet. Beat is a really interesting word. Echo. As they ran, they heard the echo of many hurrying feet behind. That would be sort of unexceptional. That would be an unexceptional sentence. But the beat and echo. I forgot to come around the corner. The beat and echo. They heard the beat of many hurrying feet behind. It's interesting because the rhyme between beat and feet, if you didn't have beat, you wouldn't have the rhyme. They heard the echo of many hurrying feet behind would be a fairly normal, not to say dull, but fairly normal sentence anyway. If you didn't have echo, as they ran, they heard the beat of many hurrying feet behind. The proximity of that, because it's a close rhyme. It's a one syllable exact rhyme, right? And then it sounds clunky and weird. It doesn't sound good. It rhymes, but it doesn't sound good. This is what when rappers are making fun of each other and they say your rhymes sound like Dr. Seuss, and they usually mean that and they always mean that as an insult. That's what they mean. Like when it has that kind of cadence is just like campy. They heard the beat of many hurrying feet behind. Yeah, but as they ran, they heard the beat and echo of many hurrying feet. The extra syllables give it a much, much better pace. Notice that, yes, Heradiel, as you were pointing out, there's also whistling arrows. Yes, yeah. So whistled, I assume it's just means that the arrow is passing by close enough that he can hear the wind whistling through the fletching of the arrow, basically, which, if it didn't have, if it was slightly sloppily constructed, the arrow, I mean, you'd be able to hear it, right? Yeah. Yeah. So again, it's a testimony in part, I suspect, to slightly shoddy construction on the part of the orc arrows, but also to the proximity of the arrow. I have no personal experience with this, but I understand, for instance, that bullets make sounds when they fly close enough to you as well. So again, it is what Tolkien is describing here is that moment from within. Like, we're not told how far over Frodo's head it was. I mean, it might be 15 feet over his head, but it might also be 4 inches over his head. No, Valinor, they are. They're running. The company is running. Yeah. Can confirm about the bullet noises. Yeah, I've been told that on fairly good authority, but as I said, I've never experienced it myself. And Adam, yes, exactly. However, what I was thinking is Tolkien certainly had that experience. So, yeah. April, I don't think the orcs are making deliberately whistling arrows. I don't think it's a feature. I think if anything, it's a bug, but more likely it's just the description of a fast moving projectile that's very, very close. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Tom, I say it's probably not 3 inches above his head, as you say, hitting Boromir in the navel. Probably higher than that because it doesn't actually hit anybody else. But yeah. Oh, sorry. You meant the drums were not moving. Sorry. Yeah. Well, that's a question I'm going to come to that question in a minute. We will. We'll come back to that. I'll finish this. I know I'm not doing the paragraphs in any order here tonight, other than I just wanted to talk about the physical spacing of things first, and then I wanted to talk about once again, how close Tolkien is keeping us to the immediate sense perception. I would say it even more strongly. Notice the extent to which Tolkien actively resists stepping into any kind of third person, omniscient description. He doesn't give us anything in that whole paragraph. He doesn't give us anything at all that is outside the immediate, instantaneous sensory experience of Frodo as they're running. And I think that's, I mean, he could easily do. It wouldn't sound weird. He could just tell us, like, as they ran, as they ran, hundreds of orcs came running up the hall from behind them, shooting arrows wildly in their direction. An arrow whistled over Frodo's head. Like, you could say that. Many writers might say that, in fact. But yeah, Aranos, exactly. Lupita, you're right. It wouldn't be as scary. And Aranos, you're right. It would make the experience less immediate. It is clearly that kind of immediacy of experience, as we've been noticing since the Chamber of Mizarble, and continually through here. He has, it's one of the things. Remember that one of the things that I love to do, one of the things that is one of the payoffs of reading this slowly, is you get to take the time to notice not just like what happens, but how Tolkien describes it, how Tolkien what does Tolkien actually do to create the effects that he creates? Like, what are the effects that he creates, firstly? Not just what happens, right? But what effects does he create in describing them? And how does he go about creating those effects? And my answer to those two things, which I think has been so compelling to me, like, this is never something that really came to my attention, ever. I never really noticed this at all in reading The Lord of the Rings before. How persistently, stubbornly, like, he has made a consistent choice to restrict himself absolutely to the sensory information that specifically Frodo and the other hobbits have. And by doing that, he creates this pressing immediacy of experience, and it's scary. It is. It's what makes this so stressful. It would be bad to be told that, there were like 1,000 orcs or whatever, running up the hall right behind them. But nothing like as tense and as scary as a shrill yell went up. They had been seen. By what and how many, right? Anyway, yes, Jackie, it's really disciplined. It is really disciplined what he's doing. And I think that's pretty cool. Yes. And Balinor, I suspect that you are right. I suspect that it also does have to do with somebody who's been in a situation like a battle situation. But though I would say it's not only battle itself. I would think that in some situations, a performer on stage, to a greater extent, an athlete in a game under the lights, would have a similar sort of experience. That is a physically, mentally, and emotionally intense and chaotic time when you are just keenly aware of like fragmented senses, fragmented sensory stimuli around you. We're not given. Remember when we got the kind of we got that in a slightly more fragmentary way like that during the actual fighting, right? Yeah. Eric, I agree with you. I think that his practice of writing poetry does help him here. I agree. Um, yeah. So, Adam, I was thinking of exactly that. It could be Tolkien's experience in the trenches. It could be his experience in rugby, which either one of them could have contributed to this sort of perception, I think. Um, yeah. Yeah. Anyway. And Eric, I wanted to pick up on a thing that you said briefly just a second ago too. It also does show his commitment to the frame, and I think that that's something that's really interesting to notice. One little thing that I'll say about that: there are things, and we've talked about some of these issues before, of course, but there are some elements of the story and its frame, like they're layered in at many different points, right? On the one hand, the fictional frame of, like, the modern scholar who discovers the ancient texts and translates them from the common speech into English so that we can read them, that's clearly an after the fact thing, right? Like, there's no evidence. There's no internal evidence from the text of the Lord of the Rings itself that he was thinking in terms of that frame during the writing of the Lord of the Rings. Nor is there much evidence that he was thinking consistently at all times. Like the game that we like to play about, like, which author wrote which paragraph, right? What are Frodo's bits and what are Sam's bits and what are the interpolations of Finnegan King's writer? That's a really fun game to play. I believe that is some retcon that Tolkien invites us to do, right? I don't really think that he was thinking in that, like, that he had his own color coding in his head all worked out, right, as he was writing, or even immediately after he was writing. So all of that stuff is retconned, is a later layer that is overlaid on top of the story that he had written. But here's why I'm talking about this stuff, because, and Eric, this is back to your point about how persistent he is about the Hobbit, about the Frodo frame of the story. That part, I think that, like, if somebody said, so yeah, all that stuff about this being a story that Frodo wrote, that's completely a later retcon, right? Really, this story is just told in, like, with a third person, like, just like an objective third person narrator. And then later he kind of, decides to put it all into the frame of saying it's from Frodo's perspective. So I could imagine somebody saying that or making that argument generally. Even if you said, like, yes, it's kind of like more or less from within the register of the hobbits, they're kind of the chief characters, and it's sort of all in a vague sense from their point of view, but the narrative doesn't really follow the hobbits' perspectives really closely. Again, that's just something that we're asked to believe later on. I could imagine somebody saying that. But if somebody did say that, I would point them to this paragraph, basically. I think that what we are seeing in this whole chapter, as we've been reading this chapter and noticing this stuff so persistently, both in the from the beginning of the chapter, the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, which starts in the chamber of Mizarbel and then goes through the confrontation on the bridge. In this whole chapter, I think we see a pretty convincing argument that, Eric, just as you say, he may not yet be thinking officially in terms of the metatextual frame. He may not yet be thinking in terms of the actual storytelling, like in writing a paragraph thinking like, oh, this is probably something that Sam wrote later. Like, he may not, in fact, yet be thinking in that way at all. But I think it is quite clear that he is actually thinking about, this is a story that is actually being told. Not just that kind of focuses primarily on Frodo, but that is really being told from within his perspective and field of vision, essentially. Yeah. 'Cause, Yeah, and Eric, I agree. There are many other points that one could. I think that we could make a big enough. We could make a thorough enough argument that I would find it. I find it a convincing argument. I think there's lots of evidence, lots of data that we could produce that all point towards that same pattern. That Frodo was, as he wrote, certainly as he revised. That would be an interesting little sub-study here. Is this something that can we see him shifting towards this frame as he revised the story from the earlier drafts? That would be an interesting line of inquiry. But in any case, I agree. There's a lot of evidence, Eric. The point that Eric was just making about like the narrative picking up again when Frodo returns to consciousness in in Rivendell, as being another sort of example of the narrative really following Frodo's point of view. Yeah, totally agree. Anyway, so yeah, I think that all of that is interesting about this. Yeah, Eric, it will be a fun thing to look for in reading early drafts. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the drums. Let's talk about the drums. Because we got a whole paragraph about the drums. And notice, so fact number 1, the drums come first again. How did we know they were under attack at the Chamber of Mizarbo? Boom. Right? It was the drums. How did we know they were safe after the roof collapses in the Chamber of Mizarbo and Gandalf comes falling down the stairs? Because the drum stopped. And what happens now? As soon as Gandalf says there's no time to lose, as soon as he mentions pursuit and says there's no time to lose, even as he spoke, they heard again the pursuing drum beat. Doom, doom, doom. Doom has approached them. Now, keep in mind, we've gotten doom and boom off and on from the beginning, right? And I've said that I think the difference between doom and boom is tempo. Boom was the first major drum beat. And then we got doom, boom, doom. I think the boom is bigger, and I think it's slower. When you're getting doom, heavier, yes, exactly. When we've been getting doom, doom, I think it's faster, and the individual sounds are lighter. So on the one level, there are several different levels here, right? On the one hand, it's simple onomatopoeia, right? It's just rendering in sound, in letters, the sound that they're hearing. And what makes it clear that the two things are not synonymous, that like doom and boom aren't just different ways of pointing to exactly the same. There's clearly similar sounds, but they're not exactly the same sound. Is when he shifts, when it goes doom boom doom, is I think when it's pretty clear. He'll have doom doom and then doom boom doom, and it's pretty clear that the sound is not exactly the same, right? And so now we're getting nothing but doom. It's not doom boom doom. It's doom doom doom. You guys are already talking about the really interesting word, pursuing. Let me let's take a walk back down memory lane for a moment, shall we? Let's look at our friend the drum and see not just what our friend the drum has said, but the words that Tolkien uses to describe it. Here's the last one that we got. Right after Gandalf tumbles down the stairs, says he's nearly been destroyed, and then leads them away. They stumbled after him, wondering what had happened. Doom, doom went the drum beats again. They now sounded muffled and far away, but they were following, we're told. They now sounded muffled. Okay, we'll come back to this. The drum beats broke out wildly. Doom, boom, doom, boom. And then stopped. That's when Gandalf comes flying down the steps. So that seems to coincide with the actual confrontation between Gandalf and whatever the heck that was at the top of the stairs. The drum beats broke out wildly and then stopped. Oh, sorry. The drum beats throbbed and rolled. Doom, doom. That's while they're waiting with Gandalf at the top. Doom, doom went the drums in the deep. The great voice rolled out again. That's still unclear to me whether that is the voice of the drums or someone else's voice. I think something else probably, but yeah, so Eric, see, that's why I wanted to go back and review him talking about the drums, because he doesn't always just talk about the beats. But remember where we began our conversation tonight, with a description of sounds happening, right? The drums are the most dramatic example. Yeah, by the way, Balinar's imagining my slide deck having every slide since the beginning, and it barely loads. Yeah, that I don't, for that reason. Every I don't know, couple months, I delete the last few dozen, or the oldest few dozen. I still have them somewhere. I mean, I do have 355 files, right? Different slide sets, but I don't have them all in one growing set, or else it would be way too laggy eventually. So yeah. Okay. Anyway. Doom, doom went the drums in the deep. And then we got, that was the fight, one for the Shire. Heavy feet are heard. Doom, boom, doom went the drums in the deep. A deep voice was raised in command. Doom, boom, doom went the drums in the deep. Mm-hmm. And here's the beginning. A rolling boom that seemed to come from depths far below and to tremble in the stone at their feet. Doom, doom, it rolled again. Doom, doom came the drum beat, and the walls shook. Okay. This first description is that they're coming from the depths, far below. Now, of course, we don't know exactly how accurate any of these things are. What it certainly does is capture the experience that the hobbits were having, as we discussed, right? So they feel that. They can feel it in their feet. The rolling boom. Rolling, trembling. These are things that have been associated with it. Remember the way that I've been pointing out from the beginning. Tolkien keeps giving us the drum beats as if they are direct quotations with conversation tags. Doom, doom came the drum beat. Doom, doom, it rolled again. Doom, boom, doom went the drums in the deep. Doom, doom went the drums in the deep. Again the drum beats throbbed and rolled. Doom, doom. The drum beats broke out wildly. Doom, boom, doom, boom. Here's what they said. Doom, boom, doom, boom. Doom, doom, went the drum beats again. Okay. Now, we get the... Oh, yeah, now we're back. Okay. This first one, both of these two, are actually a bit of a departure. Do you notice that? Even as he spoke, they heard again the pursuing drum beat, : doom, doom, doom. Away beyond the shadows at the western end of the hall there came cries and horn calls, doom, doom, : the pillars seemed to tremble, and the flames to quiver. Notice that it is... He doesn't give conversation tags. This is different than speech. Yes. And yes, Eric, I love the shape of it. Notice like the interleaving there. Sentence describing what they hear. Even as they spoke, they heard again the pursuing drum beat, punctuated by the sound, doom, doom, doom. Away beyond the shadows at the western end of the hall there came cries and horn calls, doom, doom. The pillars seemed to tremble and the flames to quiver. Now, notice, if you're just hearing this aloud, right? If you don't see this on the page, you wouldn't even know that those sounds were attached to... It just sounds like 3 sentences, but between each sentence is the sound, right? It's just like interrupting. The sound is like spontaneously punctuating a paragraph which is otherwise just describing what they are seeing and hearing. And notice, by the way, I say seeing. They're not running yet. They've come through. They were staring at the freaky fissure and the fierce flames, right? And they're still looking that direction. They're still looking west. They're still looking down the hall across the fissure when they hear the pursuing drumbeat. Gandalf's already trying to carry them off, but he's not done it yet. Gandalf has just said, come, there is no time to lose. But they're still looking away beyond the shadows at the western end of the hall, because that's where the cries and horn calls are coming. And then again, we get visual description. The pillars seemed to tremble and the flames to quiver. You could say that the pillars seeming to tremble might be a tactile sensation, but it's clearly a visual sensation because presumably they're not getting a tactile read on the flames, right? One hopes for their sake that they're not, in fact, getting that. So there's a vibration, Maureen. But again, remember how, Maureen, the first time we got it, boom, they could feel it in their feet. Boom, boom, doom, doom, boom, doom, boom at the top of the stairs with Gandalf up there, and they can feel it in the walls, right? But now they're not feeling it. They're seeing it. Yeah. Tom, I agree. 30 years from now, exploring the Lord of the Rings, the next generation, we'll have to compare the use of sound here with the sound leading up to the breaking of the gate at Minas Tirith. Yes. Yes. Agreed. Yes. Agreed. But anyway, the point is that's a visual image. As they looked at, they hear the drum. They're looking down the hall across the fissure and they hear the drums start up again. And then they're looking into the shadows. They can't see anything, but they see the shadows. But from the shadows, they can hear cries and horn calls. Recalling the cries and horn calls that they only heard but didn't see up in the Chamber of Mizarbo. And then we get the one visual thing. The pillars seem to tremble and the flames to quiver. And Eric, I agree, the whole symmetry of this passage extends beyond that one paragraph into, like, no, it's framed above and below with Gandalf's words. Yes. Yes. Dizzy, I agree. It is an interesting parallel. The Doom Doom with the two-note Jaws motif, right? It has that kind of an ominous sense. And I think that that is why he uses the participle pursuing here. Even as he spoke, they heard the pursuing drumbeat. Doom, doom, doom. The idea that the drum is somehow pursuing them. The beats are somehow pursuing them. Whether or not the drum is stationary or not. They associate it with pursuit. Gandalf has just said, notice, he just said pursuit. Let us hope that the fire now lies between us and pursuit. Because, they're chasing us. And as soon as he says there's no time to lose, doom, doom, the pursuing drumbeat has come. The drumbeat which announced we were under attack before is just now announcing that that the pursuit is upon us. The pursuit has caught up with us. Yes. I'm not afraid to make guesses. But before we start making guesses, let us just observe how cool it is that we can't really be sure whether the drums are moving, nor do we have any idea what's making this sound. Is it an actual drum? Could be spiritual drum beats. We talked about the sense in which it feels almost like a monstrous heartbeat or something. Some kind of projection. Yeah. Like the malevolent heartbeat of Khazad-dûm itself. But it is what signaled to the orcs to begin. And it seemed to respond. Remember, when the conflict was going on, there was stress in the Chamber of Mizarbo, right? Two big, well, metaphysically big at least, cranky individuals locked in a metaphysical shoving match with an innocent door caught in between. And while that was happening, we heard it from the company's perspective, looking up in the dark, feeling the trembling in the walls, hearing Gandalf's voice coming down, not knowing knowing that something was happening, but not knowing what was happening. And at that same time, the drums hyphenated, remember? Not boom, not even doom, doom, not even doom, boom, doom. No, it was doom, boom, hyphenated. That is clearly pace. That is clearly rapidity. In other words, the drumbeat was plainly responding to the stress of what was happening there. whether it was reacting in concern or fear of Gandalf, or whether it was responding in excitement, in triumph, or anticipated triumph. We don't know. But it seems to have been... It seemed to have been responding to that situation. And now it's responding again. Doom, doom, doom. You know, I don't speak drum, but we've gotten enough quotations from our friend the drum that I'm beginning to pick up a phrase or two, I feel. You know what I mean? Yeah, Jackie, I agree. That sounds urgent. And I think that's why it's called a pursuing drumbeat. Because we can understand that in a few ways, right? It could be that the drum is pursuing them. It is getting closer. Like it sounds like the drum itself is coming closer. It could be a pursuing drumbeat in the sense that the drum beats themselves are rolling. That's a word that's been used of them twice before. Are rolling towards them. So like, and because remember how huge the sound of these drums is, right? So it sounds like the sound of the drum beats them itself is pursuing them. At the same time, you could also say it's a pursuing drum beat in the sense that it is the drum beat that you beat when you are telling them to pursue, right? That doom, doom, doom in this case, if we did speak drum, might mean something like, after them, they're right there. Right? Yeah, Eric and Jackie were thinking, yes, pick up the pace, boys. April, exactly. So it could be a pursuing drum beat in that sense. Like you could have a pursuing drum beat, an attacking drum beat, potentially a retreating drum beat, though I doubt the orcs use that all that much. Right? So it's possible that that's also what it means, that they're getting that sense, that they too have heard enough of this drum, that they're getting a sense of, like, they've been hearing the voice of the drum and now they're starting to understand it, or they have a sinking feeling that they understand what it means. Notice the way that Tolkien amps up that tension. And yet, okay, it's so cool. Back to that second paragraph, that beautifully structured 3 sentences with doom dooms in the spaces in between. Even as he spoke, they heard again the pursuing drumbeat. No sense of direction, no sense of distance, just the drumbeat. Doom, doom, doom. Now space, away beyond the shadows at the western end of the hall. So it's close, but it's a big, big hall, right? And you can't see anything because it's in the shadows. There came cries and horn calls. Doom, doom. The pillars, the pillars that are right there in the foreground, that they can see, that fissure, which we were having described for us in some detail because it's pretty close to where they are. The flames that we were just looking at in the previous slide, those flames are quivering. Notice the sense of approach from directionless sound to, no, wait, sounds are coming from the end of this hall to we're seeing the effects of the sounds in the foreground, just, feet or meters away from us, right? He gives this sense of approaching doom. Without actually showing us anything at all. We haven't seen anything. And yes, Eric, I do like the choice of tremble and quiver. There are other synonyms he could have used there. He didn't have to use two verbs at all. He could have used other verbs. Both of them, by the only thing that we see being the trembling of things, you get the sense of something huge. You get this sense of hugeness. Something that is coming that is making this entire enormous hall shake. But they absolutely do both suggest fear. Tremble and quiver are both much more fearful verbs than shake. You can shake something when you're angry. You can shake your fist, right? You can shake the thing you're angry at, right? You can also shake with fear. It's possible to tremble in other situations or to quiver. But again, those are smaller, more fearful sounds, right? Yeah, we'll come back to the ring and clash of steel. And we'll do Boromir too. We're getting there. Okay. I'm not yet going to make any wild guesses about the drums because it's too soon. We should not try to draw conclusions in advance of our data. We still have much more data to come. Oh, okay, not much more, but we still have more data to come. However, one pattern that's already clear is that it seems to be not only... There seems to be an element of command, like the drums cause things to happen. Boom. And the orcs suddenly start shouting. And now the doom, doom, doom pursuing drumbeat, right? It does sound like it is telling them to hurry and run because the enemy is right there. A shrill yell goes up when they had been seen by whoever, is doing the cries and horn calls in the back of the room. But you get the sense that whoever's beating the drum had already seen them, right? But at the same time, as I said, there's also there is also the sense that it's responding, like it did up in when the fight was happening in the chamber. Yeah. Eric, I agree. They had been seen is an extrapolation. But again, I think that that's an extrapolation still, like, it's because Frodo is making that extrapolation, right? We have been seen. Again, if we were told what saw them, then we would be getting like an objective third-person description, right? They had been seen isn't a shift to a different perspective so much as, an inference being drawn from the sensory, like a fearful, terrified inference being drawn. And I don't think it's by the narrator, it's by Frodo, right? Or Frodo as narrator. And yes, I agree. It is worthy to note that it's an unattributed POV thought. Yes. As persistent as Tolkien has been about staying within Frodo's perspective and the Hobbits, he doesn't announce that. You can miss it. I did miss it. I've read this book how many dozens of times, and I've never really noticed this before. And not in these scenes, not in the way that we've been saying. I've never noticed how persistent it is in through here. Because he doesn't draw attention to it. He doesn't say, you know, as Frodo ran, he heard the beaten echo, right? Like, we don't get this commentary just describing Frodo in his perspective. Yeah, Frodo saw this. Frodo felt that. And never in this passage does he say any of those things. It's just the clear pattern that you can see when you look at it. Okay. The relationship, it's going to be obvious. So, can we do a spoiler? The Balrog's not beating a drum. Nor, I believe, is the Balrog causing the drum to be beaten. Like, is the beating of the drum some kind of extension of the Balrog's power or something? Gimli thinks that. It's the only clue we had. Gimli says, "Did you meet the beater of the drums?" By which he seems to mean the big boss, right? He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't even know for sure that it's Durin's Bane, but though I think he fears it, which is one of the reasons why he's being indirect here. But the primary reason, I'm pretty sure, it's not the Balrog, is that it's going to keep happening after the Balrog falls into the abyss. We'll get several more dooms afterwards. Anyway, there's my spoiler. Spoiler for New Year's. Anyway, okay, we'll keep thinking about that. However, I don't want to lose the significance of the fact that the drum it's not being given conversational tags anymore. It's just happening. It's part of this immediate experience. Even the adjectival participle, pursuing, present participle, pursuing, attached to the noun drumbeat, indicates that they're understanding what it means, what it's doing. They know it's coming after whatever it is, whatever the drums are, however the drums are involved in this whole attack situation. It's after them. Oh, that's really cool, Eric. Again, with the symmetry. Eric is pointing out how pursuing is a 3-syllable word. Pursuing, drumbeat, doom, doom, doom. The rhythm isn't the same, of course, with pursuing and doom, doom, doom. But the vowel is, right? There's an echo there. Pursue, doom, doom, right? Yeah. So there is an assonance there that, so again, the rhythm isn't quite the same, but it's cool. Anyway, let me come back to Ring and Clash of Steel. By the way, so Ring and Clash. And that's true. It wasn't a spoiler. It was remembering ahead, Garminal. Yeah. And only a little bit ahead after all. Okay. So, what was that? Oh yeah. Ring and Clash. Notice, first of all, Ring and clash, that's onomatopoeia too. That's just as much onomatopoeia as doom, doom, doom. There was a ring and clash of steel. That's what they heard. A ring and a clash. Both of those are heavily onomatopoetic words in that context. What is making that sound? I don't know. I can't see. We're running in the opposite direction. What does it convey? Weapons? Possibly armor? The unsheathing of weapons, very possibly. The clashing of weapons. Possibly the ringing of weapon on shield. I mean, there's yells. Remember, notice the ring and clash of steel follows immediately upon the shrill yell and the inference that they had been seen. Then we get the ring and clash of steel. Ring does suggest to me the drawing of weapons. Clash suggests a deliberate... I mean, there's no battle actually happening. No one's hitting anybody else. Though with orcs, you never quite know, right? Maybe somebody in front was slow and got beat down. It's possible. Oh, Little Room Johnny, we'll come back to Gollum. We'll come back to Gollum. I'm not talking about Gollum right now, just because the passages don't allude to it in any way. So I'm gonna follow the suggestion of the text, which is to come back and think about this later when Gollum comes back into the story. We're going to be invited to ask the question, what happened here? Praise, I think the clashing, orcs clashing their shields against blades, that seems very, very likely. That's what's happening. And that they're making that noise deliberately in response to the shrill yell that signaled that they'd been seen. Whatever it is, we don't know. It's loud, it's violent, it's presumably, it's scary. And also, by the way, they're also shooting arrows, because that's also the point at which the arrow whistles over Frodo's head. So they are both making noise and now also shooting at them. Let's talk for a second about Boromir. I love Boromir's laughter. What I love most about Boromir's laughter is how pleasantly jarring it is compared with the tension of the point of view description. Boromir, all that we're getting from the Frodo POV paragraph is fear. Oh no, they're behind us. Oh no, they've spotted us. Oh no, they're coming. We cannot get out, right? That's the whole trend of that paragraph. And then immediately Boromir laughs, because Boromir notices what Frodo seems to have forgotten. The fire has cut them off. We are on the wrong side. Right, Arnos, instead of we cannot get out, it's they cannot get us. And I think that Boromir's laughter, I think it's awesome. This is Boromir. This is an awesome Boromir moment, I think. Fantastic Boromir moment. This is a moment that helps you to see why Boromir is such a great captain general of his soldiers. Because A, he keeps his head during the action. He is seeing the big picture, right? He's seeing the tactical situation in ways that, like the hobbits, it's totally lost on the hobbits, right? He keeps his head. And again, you can imagine this in a battlefield situation where an inexperienced, private might be panicking. But the experienced soldier is looking out and saying, actually, this is beautiful. I know it's scary. I know it seems scary, but actually, when you realize the tactical situation, we're safe as houses over here. This is perfect. This is awesome. And his laughter, I think, I suspect his laughter of being not perfectly spontaneous. I think he's laughing on purpose. Exactly, Heradiel. He's keeping their morale up. Again, this would be great leadership on the battlefield. The expression of when everyone else is freaking out, when everyone else is terrified in the face of the enemy, to show so much confidence that you laugh. And I don't think it's crazy laughter. There is Fey laughter, but I don't think this is Fey. I don't think he's Fey here. Fey. This is very rational. This is very, very heartening. He not only keeps his wits about himself and notices that actually they're in a really awesome position. Yes, the enemy has found them, but the enemy is cut off by the devilry. They did not expect this. Notice he understands what Gandalf said about the devilry. He has understood and accepted that chasm has been opened up in the floor. The fiery chasm has been opened up in the floor on purpose to trap them. It's like an extra defense that has been laid, in the deliberate passive voice, between, like, across the way out to keep them even from getting to the bridge. But they have not only avoided the trap backfired on the bad guys. And that is awesome. And that makes Boromir laugh. If they had not prepared some devilry to cut off our escape, then we might be in trouble. But as it is, they've beaten themselves. We are on the wrong side. That is awesome. I also think, he is. Remember, there have been lots of issues with Gandalf. I also think that this is a fairly an indirect slap on the back for Gandalf, right? Like, hey man, you know that I've questioned your leadership. You know that I was this close. If we hadn't been attacked by that squid thing or whatever that was, I was ready to lead a revolt because you didn't even know how to get through the doors, right? And then there was that embarrassing moment when I said my thought out loud and everybody heard it because of the echoes right afterwards, because I didn't think that there was anybody who could lead us. Man, not only did you lead us through and we're about out, but you've been leading us in the pitch dark for hours now. And not only did you find a backup way in the pitch dark, not only did you find an alternate route to the exit, but you found in the dark an alternate route to the exit that got on the other side of their trap and made their trap backfire on them. Man, props, Gandalf. I revised my previous estimate of your leadership skills this was pretty boss. Congrats on failing forward, Gandalf. That would be a less kind way to say it, Aranos, but yes. 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 Andrew, I agree. Boromir would have returned to his father with a much improved opinion of Mithrandir had he survived. Yes. Yes. I think he would. I think he would. Yeah, again, he doesn't say it. It doesn't actually compliment Gandalf explicitly, right? But that's okay, because Gandalf doesn't thank him either, right? Gandalf's response is, watch where you're going! Right? Look ahead. The bridge is near. So, by the way, some of you were asking, isn't it time to blow the horn yet? No. No, it's not. You blow the horn when you charge. Right? I don't really speak horn either, but when Boromir blows his horn, it means attack. That's why he had to blow it when he left Rivendell. Right? Calling for backup, Aranos too. Yeah. Though that's also, calling for backup is a subspecies of attack. Right? That, if you're standing right near the person who's blowing the horn, it just means attack. If you're standing far away, it means, in parentheses, hey, you over there, attack, in parentheses, also. Right? And when you're setting out on the journey, that's just another kind of attack, right? That's all I'm saying. And again, his comparison was to going like a thief in the night, right? Sneaking like a thief or charging, right? And he's going to charge. Yes. Tally ho. Agreed. Agreed. Yes. Oh, Maureen, that is so important too. Maureen says, I read the scene so fast the first time. There's so much you miss. Yes, it is. It's one of the things that is so delicious about reading, about doing these passages that we're doing, because when you are just reading the text, this is a really rapid section. There's so much momentum in this whole passage. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, so yes, I think his laughter is deliberate and genuinely joyful, confident and calm, like a good battle leader would be, raising the morale of people and also praising Gandalf. Yes. I love Gandalf's transition. Look ahead, called Gandalf. The bridge is near. It is dangerous and narrow. Now, what's the next paragraph going to be? The next paragraph is going to be a description of what's in front of them, which we've not gotten. We don't know what's at the eastern end of the hall yet. Because again, the entire focus, first visual description there in paragraph 2 is looking back down the hall to the west. And then even after they turn and they're running east, their minds are entirely on what's behind them. Remember, they're still running when Boromir's laughing and talking. But they themselves, it seems, are not even really aware of what's in front of them yet, because they've not even started to think about that, because their focus is entirely behind them. And I think Gandalf says, look ahead, because I think that Boromir is actually turning back. Where's Boromir? I think Boromir is up near the front here. And I think he's turning back, not only to look back behind, but to talk to the hobbits. So I think he's looking over his shoulder, and that's why Frodo can hear him. And I think he's doing that on purpose, right? At least we're not told exactly what the positioning is, but that is, the fact that Gandalf says look ahead suggests that Boromir is looking behind, which suggests to me that he's in front of the hobbits. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The bridge is near. It is dangerous and narrow. One last point. It's already super late, but these passages, totally worth it. Last observation that I will make is Gandalf's register. Gandalf is not speaking in hero speak at any point. If we had come by the main road down from the upper halls, we should have been trapped here. Let us hope the fire now lies between us and pursuit. That's not hero speak. He's speaking Hobbit here. Come, there is no time to lose. I don't think that Boromir ever says, come, there is no time to lose, exactly in those words, right? When he's talking to his soldiers in battle, right? Now for the last race, says Gandalf. Okay. Sporting metaphor, all right? If the sun is shining outside, we may still escape. After me, even after me, right? Again, like it's not, he's not in hero register yet, right? It's not hero speak. Look ahead, the bridge is near. It is dangerous and narrow. Gandalf is still speaking to the hobbits. And he's keeping it light. He's using metaphors. Now for the last race. After me. Makes it sound like a game. There is no time to lose. Yes. Yeah, Kurtzimus, we will get a modulation from Gandalf very distinctly before too long, right? But, of course, since we've been noticing this, since the battle in the Chamber of Mizarble, this, like, hero speak versus Hobbit register thing, I'm particularly interested in Gandalf's register. Gandalf is the one with the most complex register. The second most interesting thing to me is listening to the hobbits themselves. And also Aragorn to some extent, though again, it's Aragorn speaks with a strong hero speak accent even when he's speaking in hobbit language. But yeah. Anyway, Boromir. I mean, like, we are on the wrong side. It's not exactly hero speak. Boromir is kind of reciprocating, but he doesn't really code switch in the same way. He's keeping it light. The laugh is hero speak. I agree. Yeah. It's heroic laughter, but I think it's neither fey laughter. It's not laughing we shall die exactly. He's not facing death with laughter. It's not just laughing with relief either. Because again, I don't think it's perfectly spontaneous relief. It's laughter designed to inspire relief. And there's some perhaps joy of oncoming battle. Certainly I think Boromir is not nearly as afraid of the orcs charging as the hobbits are. Right. It is a very Robin Hood sort of laugh. I can agree with that. Yeah. A bit of gloating? Sure. Absolutely. Yes, Belongspond, I agree. To that extent, Boromir's not speaking in full hero speak because they aren't with soldiers and it's a different kind of journey. Yes, I agree. I think that but I also think when Boromir is speaking like this, he's not speaking Hobbit. He's speaking battlefield casual, right? like lots of good generals, will, you know, joke with their men on the battlefield, right? You know, it's not always making grand speeches, right? Boromir doesn't code switch to Hobbit exactly, but I think he can definitely code switch to Gondorian Commoner. I get the clear impression that Boromir is good at that. Yeah, exactly. Henry V mingling with the men the night before Agincourt. Yeah, yeah. Not the full Henry V merging into the crowd, but Boromir never did a Prince Hal kind of deal, I don't think. But anyway, yeah, that's the attitude. That's why I think he would talk like this to his soldiers. Not sure he'd talk like that to his dad, but yeah. Anyway, okay, that's it. Done. We've said everything that is possible to be said about this. Tune in next time when we, in fact, look ahead because the bridge is near, and we will. No, I don't think Forlong the Fat was Falstaff, Tom. I don't think so. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Right. April, you're right. It's Veterans Day today, so very appropriate to end the day with Boromir being a good general. Absolutely. All right. Don't forget, we're doing an asynchronous drawing this week. At the beginning of class next time, I should specify the date and time for those who are listening asynchronously. So on the 18th of November at 10 p.m. Eastern-ish, I will draw a winner. The winner will receive a year's subscription to the Signum Collaboratory. So in order to enter, all you have to do, and people who are here live and people who are not here live are welcome to join, can send an email to donate@signumu.org. Yeah. So there we go. I should specify November 18th, 2025 for the benefit of people who are listening to this in like 7 years or whatever. All right. Thanks, folks. We will shift to field trip time. It's time to explore the Waterworks. To begin in earnest our exploration of the Waterworks. All right. Yeah, maybe. Though I heard we're not going to be able to boat again this year. Some other problem.
It is kind of chilly outside.
It is a little cold. It would have been a little bit risky doing too many water sports. Has it been as cold out there, Druid's Fire, as it's been here?
It snowed the other day.
Yeah. We got snow. It didn't snow much, but flakes were falling today. Today were the first flakes I've seen this year so far. Yeah, we were getting snow today.
As usual.
So yeah, it's been so it's going to be like 50, 60 degrees colder than last year at
yeah.
Ranger Moot. Yeah, Dizzy, I bet it's warm there. Late spring, early summer.
It did a good passable imitation of Australia last year.
Yeah. Yes, Dizzy, last Ranger Moot was Brisbane in January. This year Might be colder
Not so
than
much.
anywhere in Australia anytime. Yep. All right. Headed back. We did get the milestone, right? Yeah. Oh, that's right.
We did.
We are going to the somewhat depressingly named Rotting Cellar. To the Rotting Cellar! See, that's not exactly hero speak either.
It's not. I don't know, it might be my client, but my client is lagging crazy like.
Okay. Here we are. All right, so we started kind of looking around last time. Let's... Okay, yeah, there's only... We're going to be starting from here pretty much all the time. I don't even know where to go, but let's just start with where we are. Okay. This is called the Cellar, which is interesting. That this has been, I suspect, metaphorically compared to a cellar. I mean, it's like a cellar in that it is down below, right? There's something intrinsically kind of fun about dwarves who live in underground caverns using the metaphor of cellar, right? As like the entirety of Khazad-dûm is like a sub-basement already to begin with. But this room... Okay, we can also see, as far as the Iron Garrison is concerned... Yeah, Josh, I was noticing there isn't really a door on this cellar. As far as the Iron Garrison is concerned... Although we have the goat stable master here and some stacks of supplies over here, and we've erected a random bookcase over here in this corner. These are surviving books? Okay, this is one of the worst places for a reading nook that we have come across in Moria, honestly. You know how damp it must be down here?
Like, Forge is right next to, with sparks and everything.
Maybe the fire would dry it out a little bit, but like, as humid as it must be down here, if these books were from the original Khazad-dûm, man, they would be wrecked, like, in years, forget centuries. Yeah, Rowan, yeah, I agree. Their pages would be glued together. So I wonder if this is contemporary. I mean, the shelves are not in great shape, especially that far one. What's up with this table? Oh, it's like gem cutting. Okay. We're doing some jewelry making here on these tables, apparently. Okay, so on the one hand, we've got some... a crafting area generally. A jeweler's table. It's interesting because it's not actually crafting area in the game. This one is, I guess. No, it's just that dude's a forge master. So this isn't actually an in-game crafting area. But we have the jewelry, we have the bookcases, the jeweler's table with gems and stuff sitting right on it. A large fire here, and then so what looks like a forge with anvils and quenching basins right here, and then a mold. Like we've got we're ready to pour the molten metal into a mold down here. We even have a wooden frame mold set up and ready to go. The fact of the wooden frame mold suggests to me that this is the Iron Garrison. So remember that in the Flaming Deeps, when we had the orcs setting up their camps in places that had smelting pots and molding troughs and things like that set up. But the orcs weren't using them for their intended purpose. The orcs were like decorating it as an altar to Sauron. We even had that wonderful one where they made the pot at the top look like a face with a crown.
Yep.
Which seems to point to like the extent to which they don't get what it's for, right? Or at least have no intention of using it for what it's for. But the dwarves here clearly do. So I think, like, again, this half, this full bucket of water, wooden bucket of water, with a sword actually resting in it, having been quenched, is clearly modern, right? That's not left over from 1,000 years ago.
No, clearly not.
Clearly not. So that plus the wooden mold there, molding frame, all suggests that this has been. So I'm going to suggest, Rowan, that the books down here are modern, or at least were moved down here modern. Why they have them set up on tumble down shelves, I don't really know. What books would they need to bring down here and use? I don't know. Did they find books about the Waterworks? One of the things that we can see is evidence. One thing that we have observed is evidence of an elaborate infrastructure in Khazad-dûm of old, which is no longer functional, of course, because it's been 1,000 years. But some kind of attempt or desire on the part of the modern dwarves who are trying to retake and resettle Moria to get the old infrastructure working again. So my theory is that whatever the Waterworks was and whatever it was used for, there is some plan or desire to start it up again. And that maybe they have gathered together books that they have found elsewhere that talk about the Waterworks. And they've brought them down here for reference so that whatever team of dwarves is being assigned from within the Iron Garrison to work on the Waterworks down here have that here for reference. That's my best guess. Which would also explain why the books aren't destroyed yet, because they've only been down here for a short time. But don't worry, they will be destroyed if they keep them down here for long, which doubtless they know. Yeah. Now, there is a big old water wheel here, two big old water wheels sitting in the middle of this room, which do suggest one, at least, of the functions of the Waterworks in the old days. Yes, it is possible. I mean, so these can't be lying here organically. That is, at no point was this room a place where a water wheel was. There's no water in this room, right? I mean, if we look, my memory from finding the milestone last time is that we had to go up quite a ways. There's the water, a goodly ways down, several stories below us, right? We're quite a ways above the water. So again, At
Not a
no point.
guardrail in sight.
No, no guardrails. Guardrails are for wimps. So at no point was there water in here. So yes, those water wheels have clearly been transported here. And I suspect they've been transported here for repair. Yeah, they're wanting to make them work again. Maybe they're using them. Maybe they're trying to fix them. Maybe they're using them as models to build new ones. To fit the specifications so they could fit the old works with new wheels. I don't know. Just a theory from looking at why. I'm interested in the fact that this one's propped up like this. Right?
Like you prop up a car to take the tire off.
Exactly. Yeah. Or like
and honestly, if you listen to the laborers, they're talking about it.
Yeah, even the fact that we just passed those two guys on their smoking break over there. And it's clear that they're actually doing labor here. Now, we do have a statue. It's a Durin statue. Because he's got a crown on. So he's presumably a Durin. Which Durin, we don't know. I guess it could just be a helmet that looks crownish. But up closer, it looked pretty crownish indeed. Yeah. Where it's facing is interesting. Because there's this door right here, right?
Mm-hmm. A visible door.
A visible door. Which means, based upon our previous hypothesis, that suggests this is a public building, not a private home.
Private one. Mm-hmm. True. Same as the one down here.
Yeah.
Standing in front of it.
Right. Yeah, there's another one over there. Right, with the dude. A named dude. Anyway, okay. So you come out of this building and you're right in front of the statue. But the statue's not facing you. The statue is facing, nor is it facing away. It's facing 90 degrees, which is a little strange. Because either one of those two things, like to have a statue, like if you've got the main flow of a room, right? Like say you've got, imagine a cathedral. You come in through the westworks of a cathedral. So you've come in from the west. Whenever you're entering a Christian cathedral, you're coming in from the west and facing east.
The nave is in east.
Yeah. So you're coming into the nave of a cathedral. And think about the statues that you see. There might be statues facing you at the far end. There might be statues on the wall behind you facing in. And there might be statues along the wall facing 90 degrees. But it would be strange to enter in the nave of a cathedral, and in the middle of the nave of a cathedral, you have a statue which is 90 degrees facing the sideways. Like, that would be strange. Not like unheard of, but that would be unusual. The statue might be you might be meant to be looking right at it when you come through, like, for instance, say the Argonath, or it might be facing the same direction that you are.
It faces the stairs we came up.
Yeah, it faces the stairs that we came up, and this hallway behind. That means that the north-south seems to be the main flow of this hall, based on this statue. I also agree, I forgot who was observing it. That does not look like a war hammer, I agree. That looks like a crafting hammer. Although this guy is wearing a helmet and armor, it doesn't necessarily seem certain that he's in battle.
Repair place.
Yeah.
This looks like a crafting Durin.
Yeah, it does look like a crafting Durin. Yeah.
I still like the trees on his stone cloak. We saw that in other parts of Moria. I'm always fascinated by that.
The trees on his what?
Cloak.
His cloak. Okay,
the statue.
I'm coming on behind. Oh, yeah. I think we have seen that before, but I managed to completely forget about that. Yeah. That's really interesting. But it's in keeping. I mean, in the text, we just had the description of the pillars like trees, carved like trees, the branching traceries of the, in the ceiling. So the dwarves are into trees more than one might expect.
Well, in the time when the password was the word friend, melon.
Yep. Yeah. So the chandeliers in the archways also make this feel like it's kind of giving me cathedral feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like
big
this
old crystal chandeliers.
Yeah. Yeah. The ceiling is intricately carved as well. It's not a natural ceiling. This whole thing sounds and feels like a hall. Though it is at 90-degree angles from the main. So this is not a hall leading up to these entrances, even though they are the entrance to a public building, clearly. Maybe two public buildings, maybe one. Yeah.
I wonder if the building was built later. Like it's bigger, and they just put the building in there because they needed to cordon off something for a little bit of some chambers or something.
Yeah.
Because then that doorway leading to the north would have been in the middle. Or close enough, not to make, never mind.
It is interesting, right? So if this entrance is the statue doesn't suggest that it's meant to be the middle.
Well, again, it could have been put in later.
Right. It's possible. Yeah. Yeah, there are any number of public offices that could be down here in the... Hey, look, it's an active wheel. Yeah, there's a lot of things that could be happening in a Waterworks. We'll try to get the sense of the working of the overall room. I also don't... I mean, like, one thing that was perfectly clear is that this room... The route from the Flaming Deeps to here was not intuitive. Like, that was not part of the natural flow of this hall.
It definitely wasn't.
From the perspective, from the Flaming Deeps direction, this place where we are is like tucked off up in the corner. It's clearly been adopted by the dwarves, the modern dwarves, the Iron Garrison, as their central place and workshop. But it's harder to see what place it holds in the logic of the ancient Waterworks. But we will see. I'm beginning to get our bearings. We'll kind of piece it together a little more from here. Next time, here's what I want to do. Next time I want to go through that north archway.
Okay.
Because I want to see... the pathway from the Flaming Deeps did not naturally come here. I want to see what does naturally come here, which is through the north, through the north archway, and then we'll see what else we see from here. Because I'm trying to get a sense, since we're starting here by necessity, because this is where the milestone is. I want to get a sense from here organically how the Waterworks are laid out and what it's doing. All right. More next time. They are very grand.
These are definitely grand.
And it's interesting because it's also so much brighter. We can see further.
Very well lit for nothing having any lights.
That's what I'm saying.
No gigantic crystals.
It's very bright compared to many places we've been. Most of the places we've been in. There's a lot of light going on down here.
Yeah, and I can see a few crystal chandeliers here, hither and yonder, but there's not enough to cause this kind of brightness by any stretch of the
Yeah, the
imagination.
ambient light. But it's a very different quality of light here than we've seen anywhere else. Which is, I mean, look at how the distance is bright, not dark.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, okay. We will continue to see what we see next time as we go through the towering expanse of the Waterworks here. All right. Thank you, everybody. I will see you after Ranger Moot next week. Good night, everybody.